So welcome to the AFT Construction Podcast, and I'm very excited today to welcome Dan and Emily Clark with Clark & Co. Homes. Welcome, Dan and Emily.
Hi, Brad. Nice to be here.
Well, it's good to see you. And for those that are tuning in on the YouTube, Dan's representing a great hat right now, an AFT hat. So
if only you could see.
Oh, they'll see. We'll have this tag.
I think you need to start making that merch, Brad, in women's version.
You know, my wife told me that we need to.
Left out.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some women's version. Don't worry, and we need some kids too, because I know my son's a hat guy. He loves hats, so
we'll start young, right?
Start him young. Start that branding. So let me start with this, because Dan and Emily, I mean, you came down to visit me a couple months ago. We had an awesome visit. It was great to learn more about your business, and been fascinating watching from afar as you've grown so much, taking over Boise, and you're doing some amazing things on social media. But I guess we'll start here. I mean, how are you surviving this current whirlwind that is the market we know as construction?
Yeah, we definitely had to play it different. The design and construction industry in the last couple of years has just kind of put us on our back a little bit. I think the biggest thing we tell our clients is we've tried to set the expectation so there's not as much frustration. I think most of the clients that we've dealt with, they understand what's going on, and it's an increase in communication. We like to say our team, we have to pivot. We have to be pretty nimble when things go awry, when materials are not available. I mean, we've had appliances. How long have we been waiting for some appliances? 8 months, 12 months. We'll get notification that they're there, and then they say, oh, it's not there. I mean, it's just crazy what's going on. So we never anticipated this. But I think the biggest thing for us is, and we've learned this, and some good, some not so good, is that with our clients, we have got to be pretty transparent with what we're seeing and just relay that communication to them.
Yeah, there's a balance there. I mean, I've always felt like we're in a position where we kind of shield our clients from a lot of those headaches. That's why they come to us, so that we can make everything just feel like beautifully easy and wonderful. And of course, this past year and a half has been hugely challenging. I mean, I would say everything that I learned in the past 10 years of doing business was pretty much out the window, just as we kind of had to totally take all those processes, which we had really honed to a great level, and really rethink things, because, you just have the supply chain issues every single day. We can spend a year and a half designing a house, but then if it's time to install some of those things and they're no longer available, like that's just going to be a challenge. And like Dan says, we've had to be really nimble and have lots of options. And I think setting that expectation with the client that, yeah, we may not, where we get to at the end may not be exactly where we thought we were going at the beginning, but in most cases it is better. I think. So it just allows us to be creative and really capitalize on that ability.
Well, let me throw this at you. You said something really interesting, Emily. You talked about shielding our clients, and I think that's true. I know in construction, for the most part, we always did shield the clients. Like, there's a lot of chaos we deal with, and people, until they build their own house, don't realize how complicated the construction process is. And there's a lot of technical, there's a lot of management, there's a lot of psychiatry, right? There's just a lot of things that come, and forecasting is one, and ordering. And notwithstanding all of us having lived through the chaos that's been this last year and a half, I'll give a good example. We have a house right now coming up near closing. And so since April of this year, we're in October, I've been asking our superintendent, I've been asking a landscaper, do you have all of the product? Do you have all the PVC? Do you have the drains, right? We're going to be doing pavers. Like, are you good to go? And it's constantly, yep, we're good. We got everything. Bill deposit. We got it. Everything's in stock. Okay, perfect. Well, 2 weeks ago, my super calls me freak out mode, like 911, and he's like, hey, Brad, landscaper doesn't have the PVC for the French drain in the back patio to do the pavers. And I'm like, how's this possible? Like, we've been asking them for 6 months, like constantly. And then I call them, and they're like, well, we didn't have it. I mean, it's always been on the shelf. Like, we can go by any time. And I'm like, what? Like, what world are we living in? We already know this is not the case. And it's almost like, well, what do we have to do? Because I've been telling the client, yeah, we're ready. We got everything. We've checked. I mean, across the board, it's a very complicated build. And we do have everything with the exception of this, which now is going to back up our back patio, which backs up, it's cause and effect, right? And so it's almost embarrassing in a way. I mean, I could say this on the air because the reality is we're all dealing with this, and people can relate that without me having to spend more time to go inspect every yard and every company, how is it that you guys are managing that expectation with the client, or what expectations are you setting differently to make sure that you don't have that same issue?
Well, it's certainly, like you said, it's 10 times more time going into the management side, checking up on things. And even, like you say, even when you are being really proactive, I mean, we start ordering things the second the contract is signed, and I'm talking the appliances and everything, and still we'll get to the end of the build and like maybe 2 days before closing, an oven is finally showing up, and then, oh, by the way, they dropped it on the way in. So now you got to start over. I mean, that's happened to us twice, Brad, this year. Like the same oven got dropped twice after waiting and waiting and waiting. And so it's just like this constant, and I don't know about you, but like clients are getting really tired of hearing the COVID excuse. Like they're just like, well, how come you can't just figure this out? And it's like, I mean, there are just so many different, hands in the pot and making sure that all of these parts and things get to where they need to go. And we do try to shield our clients from a lot of that, because they don't want to have that constant emotional roller coaster, right? Of like, this is available, this is not available. We can't get that light. We're going to get, so like we're on our end trying to find 18 different backup plans for each selection in the home, which is like, it's exhausting for sure. And I do find that we're trying to be much more selective about who we're taking on right now, because we want to be able to guarantee, a certain level of product at the end. And with the project management taking so much longer these days, that requires less clients, I think.
Well, let me ask a question for you and Dan. Is one thing that I've toiled with and I'm trying to figure out still is whether you're cost plus, whether you're lump sum. I mean, primarily cost plus. I mean, we've moved to that. But as I'm working through with clients, there's a fine line to going to my vendors where I know increases are happening and saying, hey, do you have price increases? Do you have price increases? Because that opens the door. Or now, oh yeah, I've had a price increase, or here's this, and they pass on. So there's that fine line to opening the door and giving them that open ticket, but also having enough leeway for the client to make the decision, hey, there's a price increase coming, this is coming. We need to communicate this. Either we're good with it, or we need to reselect, or find something else, or VE, right? Value engineer it. How are you handling that? I mean, are you doing that a lot from your end?
Yeah, I think to kind of backpedal a little bit, what you're saying is these clients, I think the biggest value system they have is time and money. So we're trying to figure out how to respect that. Like you're saying, we used to just pick it off the shelf and order it a couple weeks before, or maybe it's 2 months before, and now it's not even that. It's this ration system, like, oh, we needed this dishwasher at another job and it was ahead of yours, so we used it and now we can't replace it and it's going to delay everything. We're seeing that a lot. It's not quite robbing Peter to pay Paul, but it's like this weird transition of material availability, and we just call it's a ration system. So when it comes down to money, we do mostly fixed cost, if not almost 100%, but it's caused us to be rethink it a little bit, and I think it comes down to how you contract it. We've had to completely change over our contracts where it addresses any shortages, material increase costs, and so your contract is this almost subjective, like blank statement that if anything changes cost, we're gonna hand it over to you, and then ultimately you can decide what you want to do. But in a fixed cost scenario, you've kind of been shielding the client from any of those price increases, and you just kind of hedge your bets and say this is your price, and we move forward. Now we're making these contracts to protect everybody. And I think for the most part, clients respect that. They understand what's going on. But again, it's just the nature of the situation that we're in as contractors and facilitating all the different moving parts of this cog. And really, it comes down to being able to produce a product that everybody's happy about, and ultimately that the client is happy to call home. And the cost increases that we're seeing is probably one of the biggest obstacles, because they're astronomical. We've got companies that it's kind of the running joke in our office. on a weekly basis, we count how many price increases that we've received from them. And it's kind of tapered down a little bit, and I think it's a seasonal thing. The summer was just crazy. As we all know, the lumber prices were just through the roof. But at a moment there where supply and demand was so crazy, we just couldn't keep up with the price increases. So I think we're past that, at least in our market, on a temporary basis. And right now, I think the biggest obstacle we're seeing is just product availability. We have still huge wait times. Garage doors, we've been meeting with them a few times now, just trying to figure out what manufacturer is able to produce a product and get it to us in a reasonable time frame. We had one client, they said their doors will come back in 8 months, and so we've had to change that selection. So it's kind of the new norm. You get these responses from vendors, and they're just saying the same thing. We're doing all we can do. It's on the slow boat from China, and it's stuck at the bay in California, whatever.
It fell off the boat.
Yeah, we've heard it all, and unfortunately, you can't make this stuff
It's stuck
up.
in Long Beach at the port.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, though, Dan.
There's an oil spill.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever.
So with the fixed, I mean, it's a little convoluted. So when you're looking at this as a fixed price for the contracts you're using, and we can kind of get into your operation a little bit to understand why you do it that way. But do you have an escalation clause? I mean, how are you highlighting lumber, steel, PVC, whatever maybe appliances, and just saying, hey, all of these are prone to increase or decrease? Are you passing the savings on? Or are you passing just the increases? I mean, how does that work so that the client feels, hey, Dan and Emily are still taking the best care of me? And how are you setting those expectations?
Yeah, it is an escalation clause, and we have some verbiage that is kind of industry standard right now in the market that I think has been passed around in our network of builders quite readily. And it addresses it on a percentage basis. So I think we all as builders have a contingency where things come up, and we want to shield and we want to protect them as much as possible. The last thing we want to do is pass on these price increases. And honestly, I do feel like sometimes these clients are just signing these contracts and they don't understand everything, even though we might go over it, or it might not apply to them. So we do try to shield them from the pennies and nickels that might happen, but it's the bigger things, the lumber, we're seeing metal increases like crazy. So, and again, it's not dollar for dollar, but we just indicate if this exceeds a certain percentage, we're going to be in talks with you, and you can let us know what you want to do. The second part of that answer, I would say, is we've also in our business, it's just been a crazy, I'd say, 2 years for us. We basically have filled the pipeline for 1.5, maybe 2 years in advance. So this year has been an interesting year where we've had stuff in the works. Fortunately, many of the projects we've actually contracted and fixed priced with some of these escalation clauses. Not everything, so we're still licking some wounds. But I think for the most part, we've kind of kept some of our projects not knowing what's happening and what's going to happen. And one of the best things that we've done is been able to kind of sandbag a couple of our projects and not sell them and produce a product and then put it out to market. And that's actually been a blessing for us, where we can actually control the situation. We don't have a client to report to. And again, we're fortunate to be able to do that. That's not very, it's risky, I guess. But we're now able to put forth a couple projects in this fall season where they've basically been concept homes, which is what we really love to do. And we put it out there, and we try to get into the mind of the universal buyer as far as design and practicality and efficiency and location and all those things. And we're putting out a product that we just haven't had to deal with a client on this roller coaster. So having said that, we definitely have some clients that have rode that roller coaster, and I think a couple of them are just ready to jump off. So it's been crazy.
Well, there's ups and downs for sure.
Well, it's interesting. So, I mean, you mentioned that. I mean, what percentage of your company is build to suit and the other speculative?
I would say right now we're trying to push a little bit more of a spec concept. In our company, we feel our ideal and things that we enjoy doing and excel at doing is producing a product that we feel confident enough to put it out there at a stage in the process and say, hey, we'd love to have you come and play in our sandbox, or this is finished, come in and purchase it. So I'd say right now we're doing a little bit more. It's kind of a hybrid spec, isn't it? We will put together a complete design. We'll make the floor plan. In some cases, we have built it before, and we'll put renderings out there if it's not finished, and we'll put it to market, and we'll say, this is what we're doing. Are you interested? And that's the market we're in. Of course, they're interested. They don't have any say. And if there's very important things, we'll listen to that. But for the most part, they're just kind of enamored with the emotions of the design and what we put together and the imagery, and we're able to sell off of that.
It's a little bit of a, if you build it, they will come mentality, you know? I think that's kind of been one of the main things that has differentiated us from other builders in the area is, you know, a few years ago, we kind of put a real strong emphasis in designing our own product that had a real strong aesthetic that was different from everybody else's, and recognizably so. We made a commitment to building our brand, and so that's where Dan refers to those concept homes. They're a little more than your average spec home. It's not like we're just kind of cranking out the same plan over and over again. These are highly customized homes with all the bells and whistles, and we're really dreaming big as we put the designs together and showing the market what we can do. And then opening that product up to the market to see, you know, who would like to buy into that dream with us. And so I think by doing that, we have been able to progressively show, you know, what we want to do and attract the kind of clients that are into that niche as well. I mean, it's like you can't be everything to everyone, and I don't want to be everything to everyone. I have a really distinct design aesthetic coming from a New England background. I'm here in Boise, Idaho. I want to bring that very historical kind of classic American architecture here to Boise, and that's kind of my point of view. And so I just feel like it's our strength to be able to have a few of these projects per year where we can really have complete creative control of the vision and everything, and you know, and like Dan says, capitalize on that emotion when people walk in the door and they're like, wow, I haven't seen anything like this here before, and it feels like a home. I mean, Dan and I are parents of 5 kids. We know what challenges people are facing for homeowners and growing families, and I think we approach all of our designs with that mindset and how can we solve these issues that we encounter in our own spaces. And so we're definitely curious about how people live, how our clients live, and wanting to answer, you know, some of those pain points for them.
It's interesting. I'm going to come back to that because I will say you're doing something right, because it seems every time I turn on Instagram, there's a Clark & Co. picture going viral from every account. So we'll come back to that, especially, you know, you understand how to use the house, how to work, live through it, being married, 5 kids, designing, building. But what's interesting about your formula that really caught my attention is, you know, most spec builders I speak with, we all understand the risk reward, right? The benefit of spec is you have the creativity, you don't have all the changes, you don't have the emotion, so you can go. You can make practical decisions, keep the project moving. The risk is, do we sell it at frame? Do we sell it at slab? Do we sell it when it's only completed and furnished? You know, ideally, if it's furnished, you know, purchase price will probably be better because it's furnished. People see it done. It's turnkey. They move right in. But the risk is, I mean, the economy could change at that point, and you're waiting and you have all these carrying costs. But what's interesting is, so you're not opposed to sell it at different stages, but the hook is that, hey, we nailed the design. This is it. There's no changes. And I think that's the biggest drawback. A lot of builders are like, well, I don't really want to sell it at frame stage because then the client's still going to come in and make these changes. And some builders are like, look, I'll sell the house at drywall. Once it's drywalled, because it's really hard for them to make changes. So now it's just cosmetic. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, do you get a lot of pushback where clients are like, okay, Dan and Emily, I love this concept, but...
Not really. I mean, wouldn't you say like the market in Boise at this point is like...
differentiating factor is it's been crazy, as you know. Boise's somewhat on these weird top 10 lists, and now we're on the reverse of that. We're overvalued, and so I think for us, when we put something together, we kind of put it all out there and have, we're putting in steam showers, we're putting in outlets for bidets. I mean, they're nice features so that somebody could come in and curate a look or an aesthetic that, or even just a practical feature that they maybe didn't specifically ask for. So I think for the most part, we're kind of checking every box for a universality approach to these things. I wouldn't say there's pushback because of the market. Yes, in maybe a softer market, we might get somebody to say, can you add a pergola or some kind of hardscaping in the backyard? And right now, we just say no. And in a softer market, we'd say, yeah, we'll take some orders, or what level of customization would we be comfortable doing, given our workload, the demand? Hey, we've got 5 people behind you. We don't need to take these orders. I mean, last year we had a client that just said, I'm at the bank, I drove by the house, and I'm putting $25,000 in your account. I just need first right of refusal. And that was indicative of the market that we were in. And so we're just sitting there laughing like, okay, you know what? Hey, you win. That's a great strategy, and we will listen to your requests. And it's been a great thing where they just said, we love what you do. We have a house available. We hadn't even marketed it. But,
well, I think what's interesting,
the market.
Well, yeah, what's interesting, Dan, about that, I mean, even like your example with the pergola, it's not like you are just saying bullish on the market. Hey, we know it's a seller's market. It's more, there's also a reality to, we know the labor, we know the workforce, we know the supply chain. And so for us to be successful, like, we have to keep within this envelope, because if we start adding all these things, it's going to delay it. I may not get it done. We're going to delay closing. I mean, it's very complicated that I think a lot of buyers may not totally understand.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think one of the things I've learned just in the process, I've been in this for almost 15 years now. When somebody gives me a menu from Cheesecake Factory, it's just overwhelming. It's anxiety producing. And I think there's an element of truth to that same concept in home building and design. Maybe not so much now because there's just not a lot of product available, but I mean, you could just go crazy trying to figure out what the best selection process or the design portfolio and having every Pinterest board, and it's just, this is it. This is 100%. It'll never be that. It's just going to produce a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. And so for us, I think that business plan that we've had is just to say, I think this home will work for you. Maybe there's 1 or 2% of things over the course of the build that you'd want to change. But I think for the most part, people are saying, this works. This is great. And we're taking that stress. And again, it's working to our ideals as well. I feel like we know what our strengths are. We definitely have to know what the market is willing to bear and what clients are thinking. So there's that part of it. But I think our ideal is something that we're really honing in on in our brand and our process.
Well,
we're curating.
Yeah, curating,
the
right?
Project, I don't like to think of it as the cheesecake menu versus but it's like the prefix menu, right? Like the chef has decided what are the best ingredients available right now, and we will put them together in a way that's going to have the best result, versus somebody coming to me and saying, well, I've got a tomato and I've got a potato and what can you make out of this, right? Like, that's the whole point of our design build being under the same roof, is that we've seen all the things and we're curating, based on a sensitivity to their budget numbers and the functional requirements that they have for their family. We're taking all of those things into consideration and saying, here's the best product that we can give you based on all of those factors, and then also throwing in COVID supply chain things along with that, and figuring that all out for them, and largely just trying to keep them out of the roller coaster of emotion that kind of can really derail the home building process.
Well, one of the advantages, right, you're doing all of your in-house design and building.
Right.
And so,
yeah, we start floor plans, everything all starts within our company.
So how does that handoff work between the two of you?
Well, so I'm definitely over the design arm, and Dan is over the construction and the financing arm.
I think what Brad's asking is what are the hot topics?
Yeah.
Oh, our team, it's pretty comical. They'll at a meeting we'll have a discussion and they'll say, "Uh-oh, mom and dad are fighting." And it's not a fight, but it's definitely, she has her thoughts and I have mine.
That's true. There are definitely, cost categories where I would prefer to put more dollars, and Dan may not be quite as comfortable with that assessment, but yeah, we definitely have to. I think for the most part, we're very much on the same page, but every once in a while, there are a few things that'll come up that I might really fight for, and vice versa.
And then as far as when you're looking at that, just the dynamic there of, husband, wife, designer, builder, which can be complicated in its own right, working together, there's a lot of complication, 5 kids. I mean, I still don't know how you both do it, but when you start looking at the cost of doing a spec, I mean, are these self-funded? Without getting into your personal financials, are you working with outside investment groups? How do you work through that? Because that, I'm sure, has a little bit of an impact on what you're selecting, Emily, and how you want, the aesthetic to be, to what Dan's like projecting cost-wise.
Yeah, I mean, we started out with private money, and for the most part, we just work with a kind of a small town bank that is more relationship based, which has been a huge blessing. I think we've been doing it enough to know what are each other's strengths and weaknesses. And I think for me, the sooner I realized what Emily was doing, it was kind of that concept of if she builds it, they will come. That was the moment where I could step back and say, I just got to bite my tongue. I'm going to pick my battle. This is not the hill I'm going to die on, because I can see the bigger picture. I can see down the road, so to speak. And I feel like that has taken a little bit of navigating. Of course it has. We've just trial and error and learned. But what she does, and I think one of the times I remember learning that lesson was, we did a concept home probably 6 years ago, and it was right after Magnolia. Chip and Joe were huge. Obviously, we even reached out to them and said, "Hey, we love this farmhouse that we just did. We'd love for you to be with us," and thinking that was a thing. And the reaction that we got from it was incredible, even to this day. And yes, we're playing off that farmhouse style, but what Emily did with that design, I just kind of sat back and it was just, again, a testament to what she does, and the reactions from the public was just crazy. So I felt like, okay, it kind of put me in my place as far as some of the things that we maybe even discussed, and ultimately I think I gave in to most of them.
Smart man.
She's just happy wife, happy life. She's amazing at what she does. I do try to just shut my mouth for the most part. There's a couple things where I like to just get it going, and I just like push it, and I'm like, let's just see where this goes. Let's see if I can actually get a mark on the board. It's been a while. So,
well, I think that he recognized, in that one particular project, that there was a monetary value to be said for like the residual benefit of that project, not just selling it when it was done and the profit that's there to be made from that one particular project, but also the ability to use that project in our marketing, in creating digital downloads of that product. It's still to this day, when I post photos from that project on our Instagram, it gets the highest engagement. It is the number one traffic builder to our website, that project. So there's definitely like some of these concept homes, they pay off in ways that you may not like expect right at the beginning, right? It's like in a non-traditional type of profit later. And so I think that particular project allowed Dan to kind of trust that if I want to do some kind of a crazy out there idea for Boise, like it's not just the Boise market that we're selling to, we're also opening it up to our, social audience and, starting the broader conversation about it and getting some buzz that way. So,
well, and I want to touch on that too, Emily. Yeah, I think this is one of the most genius parts of your operation. And I remember you speaking about this when you were with me. In fact, you got a notification when you were with me of a digital download, which we'll talk about, but it's genius. I know you've been published and you've had a lot of print media speak about this aspect of your business, because for companies to be successful, a lot of us in construction, the hardest part is, we're paper contractors for the most part. Most contractors are that way. And you think about, well, what do we have behind us? What's the brick and mortar? Do we have a building? Do we own it? Do we have tenants, right? Do we have equipment? How do we lease that out? How do we have specs? Do we have land? Do we have other things that are actual assets to the company that help that, as construction ebbs and flows, what's going to be the backing? And what's interesting that I want you to talk about digital downloads. And for those listening, what you've done is you've created a marketplace, plans, design, specs where people can go on, they can purchase that. And you're with me and someone purchased something right there when you're with me. And it's just residual income, right? It's finding a way to tap another resource outside of just the sale of that home.
Yeah, and I think it kind of came about organically for us. What we were noticing is with this one particular project that really blew up is we were getting a ton of DMs and phone calls even to our office about where can I get that light fixture? Where can I get that paint color? Or, how can you tell me more about how can you build this from me and I'm in Tennessee and you're in Idaho and could you modify your plans for me? And so for us, it was like, well, we can either just decide to ignore all of this interest, or we can figure out a way to monetize that. And so basically all we did, and it didn't, require a huge investment in time for us, was just to basically take our design book, our finish schedule or whatever, and put it into an attractive PDF document that people then could say, sure, you want the selections for the kitchen, plumbing, lighting, cabinet hardware, paint colors, tile, all of that. It's here. It's available for you. This is the cost for immediate download. And you want the plan too, or maybe you just want to study it. Here's the cost for the study set. Maybe you're getting a little more serious. You want the dimensioned set. Here's the cost for that. We're still not putting out the construction, like 100%
construction drawings,
buildable construction documents, because we're not really looking to, know every single building code that's out there. But it really does give people a jumping off spot so they can take that plan to their drafter or architect of choice, and they've got the license to then customize that further and build it in a way that's going to make a lot more sense for their whatever locale that they're building it in. So it's there's different levels, and like you said, it's passive income. It didn't require a lot on our end to put those packages together. They live on our website, and it's nice to just be out to dinner and get an email saying, hey, look, there's $500 in your bank account. I guess we'll get that other appetizer while we're here.
Well, what's really smart, as you think about that, especially in this day and age, I know you've spoken about this, Emily. One of the articles I read is that, most people struggle with, that you look at social media, and there's a way with social media that, you can have a shop, or you can have swipe up links in your stories, or maybe in your profile. But it's not that it's rare, it's just not as common, for most of us to have people swipe up and actually go through and follow that. Whereas you've done this, all the DMs that you get, hey, what's that paint color? You have a way to monetize that word. And now it's directed into your website too, which is even better for your SEO content, people staying on your web page, which is going to help your Google site traffic.
Yeah, and one of the other tools that's made a big difference in our being able to do that is shooting virtual tours of our finished concept homes. So in fact, right now our son does those for us. He's 17. We're training him up to be a part of Clark & Co. And he'll take the Matterport camera into the home and shoot it from all of the, with a 360 camera. And then once all of those images get put together, people can go to our website and really walk through that home and pause and look up and down and see all of the different finishes and really feel like that they are in the home. So that has helped us for attracting new clients, and that has helped us to be able to sell the plans, because even if you can't come here to Idaho to see that home, you can kind of view it from the comfort of your own home. And then, when COVID happened, that was a huge benefit for us, because I would say 90% of our buyers right now are coming to us from out of town anyway. So they can, from their home, tour our homes and kind of get a good idea of what kind of a product we produce. And so, yeah, we're trying to stay on the cutting edge with builder, technology and imaging and being able to model things and be able to work with clients from all over the place, not just Idaho.
So amazing. I mean, it's just incredible, that business plan. And so, moving forward, have you ever had any pushback from clients saying, well, I bought this home, so I own the rights to that? Or does it help being that you are, doing your own speculative work and your own projects and everything in-house?
Yeah, so all of those digital products are put together for our concept homes. So I'm not selling a design package for a custom client. Like if a client comes to us to build a custom home and I've put together that package for them, that's unique for them. That's what they've paid us to do, and I'm not going to then turn that around and sell that to other people as a download project. So I'm only doing that for the projects that have started completely unattached to any other client. They're 100% my own decisions as far as the finishes and the look and the plan of the home. And that way there's nobody to feel sort of like their custom thing got diluted by being built many times by other people.
So you mentioned you had this New England charm, right? From where what was it, New England or Maine, or you had mentioned? And so where does that inspiration continue from? I mean, do you travel? I mean, how do you continue to update that so that I know Dan mentioned this early on, making sure that you're hitting the mark, right? They're hitting that key demographic. So, how does that inspiration continue to make sure you're right where you need to be?
So, yes, I grew up in Maine, and a lot of history in Maine, a lot of homes that are 100 plus years old that belong to my friends. And so I was exposed to that level of craftsmanship that you would find in older homes from an early age, and really just classic details like in the millwork and things that were done by real genuine craftsmen that I felt like can get lost easily, especially in a market like Boise where homes are going up so quickly. It would be easy to just churn them out and not really think about the legacy of that home. And so that's something from my perspective. I want to design a home that I feel like is going to look great 20 years after I've built it, and then maybe even 100 years. I want to think about a home in a way that people don't have to live in that home for 10 years and then move on. I want that home to be flexible and to have elements in it more and more these days that are multi-generational, that might allow a family to live there and age in place, and or even become a legacy for their children. So that definitely informs the kind of homes that I'm designing. And I think Dan and I love to travel. He's like my number one travel agent. He knows every flight going to everywhere, and he gets the best deals. And that's our favorite thing to do, is travel around the country, and especially, look at how people build wherever we're at, or, even internationally. How do people build? How do they live? What can we take from, some of these homes that are not even 100 years old, but maybe 200 and 300 years old, like you would see in Europe, and, what lessons can we learn? And that's just something that we have always shared and really love to do together.
Yeah, we were in, we did like South Carolina. Like, it's not just New England coastal themed. I think just classic timeless architecture, whether it's in the United States or foreign. We just got back from Paris a few weeks ago, and just admiring the architecture internationally has just been, again, meeting that travel love that we have, but also at the same time we can call it a business trip and do an architectural tour. And it's just awesome to see what's out there in the world, because Boise, Idaho is, pushing 200 years old. And honestly, our oldest dwelling is a prison or something. So we really got to push the envelope over here, and it's resonated really well.
It's interesting. So I know when you came to visit us, you met with me as well as some other builders in Scottsdale. How often are you networking with other builders? Are you part of any builder groups? I mean, how are you continuing, just the expertise you have, that you're bringing back to Boise?
Yeah, that's been a huge asset for us, and just the alliance that we have. I think builders, it's a pretty solitary operation sometimes, and as much as we'd love to be able to commiserate and have therapy sessions in our Boise builder group, to some extent, you respect the line of too much information. So we have membership in the National Association of Home Builders Builder 20 Club, which has been amazing. So it's builders outside of your market of influence throughout the country, where we have similar levels of production, similar level product that we produce, and where we can meet together twice a year in each other's markets and help them, but at the same time we can help each other deal with the things that we're going through. We're heading to Dallas in a week, I think, and those groups have been so beneficial. And then we are also part of some buying groups, CBUSA. Some of those alliances have been great, where we can network on more of a financial base. So yeah, those operations, highly recommend them to those builders that are still finding their way. Another one that has just not been something we anticipated, but I worked with Donnie Wyatt from Co-Construct, which he's been, I think he's sailing off into the sunset. I don't know, but obviously Builder Trend has purchased them. But I just remember working with him at the infancy of Co-Construct, and that concept really resonated with me. But I've just grown a huge base of allies in that network as well that have helped me through the years. We're huge believers of the Co-Construct I'll say Co-Construct. I have never used Builder Trend, but it's turning into Builder Trend. And it's just been a great resource for our operation, for us, and for our clients.
Yeah, it's interesting. Going back to CBUSA, I think that's where we met the first time. You both were down here in Scottsdale for CBUSA. That's right. We met there. That's been a great group for us too. And I know a lot of people are asking, well, how can I find a mentor? That's one of the questions I get a lot, through social media mentoring. And I'll give a good example because I know you're friends with Cullum Holmes, who's here locally, and because they were part of the original Co-Construct team. And, I've always been on Builder Trend and done a lot with Builder Trend. Now they're all the same company, of course, being the Builder Trend, purchased Co-Construct and CBUSA. But what I tell people, Rod had pulled me aside. And he said, hey, Brad, and he had told me about the Builder 20. You should be part of it. It had changed his career. He had worked with, Magleby and Park City and some other companies around the country. And shortly thereafter that I was invited to be in one. And I just came back from mine that was in Pennsylvania. But I don't think most people realize construction is such a difficult industry, right? And it's very difficult. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of challenges that we all have. There's a lot of pricing requests. There's a lot of expectations set with the client, a lot of demands. And it's hard to convey those, but as you get the confidence and as you learn how they're doing that in other markets, and it goes into the building science side too, right? As you tour other homes, as you mentioned, Dan, you're going to these other markets, seeing how they build, seeing how they construct. And Emily, you mentioned that too, that now you get a flavor of the design, you get a flavor of how they build, and also just how do you structure a company? As we said, brick and mortar, how do you structure your structure with your clients? How do you bill? How do you make sure that you have enough for, taxes and insurance and all the things that come along with what we do in this industry, and even the legal side in it, because it can be very overwhelming to most people.
Yeah, for sure. It's made a huge difference to us. Just to have that level of camaraderie with other people that are going through similar things that you're going through. I know when COVID first started shutting things down, it was great for us to hop on a Zoom call with a bunch of other Co-Construct founder type level builders and just talk about how are we handling this? What are some strategies that you think we need to put in place with our business right now, and in taking care of our employees and our clients and making sure that we, are doing things safely. So having that network in place and that sort of wealth of years and years of knowledge and of different situations, it's makes a huge difference. And I'm sure you have those elements of just plain old therapy in your Builder 20 Club too, where it's just nice to see each other and say, hey, you made it through another year, good for you, and it's good to see you looking so good. So in fact, we're even going into business a little bit with one of our other builders out there in Waco. He's taking some of our plans and building them down there. So that's always kind of fun to see too, kind of how far your influence can spread when kind of people pool their resources.
So how does it work now that you've, I don't want to say exploded, but you've grown tremendously on social media. You've done a great job with that. Emily, I know you're behind that. So how does it work with vendors? I know, you and I were speaking with Pella. I know Pella was up there visiting you and doing some amazing things as they're in the Boise market as well as here in Phoenix, and they've been a great resource and ally for us. I mean, how's that working from the vendor side for you?
Yeah, so you're right. We've experienced quite a lot of growth over social media, even just in the last year and a half. I think it's been really to our benefit that people have been on their phones more than ever before, right? So we've definitely seen our following grow, and I have always tried to be really conservative in, what brand partners that we will ally ourselves with. I'm sure, like you, Brad, I get a ton of DMs and people reaching out that want to provide product in exchange for, mentioning them on their page, and it's stuff that has nothing to do with anything. And I kind of, as an Instagram user, I know what that feels like to be following someone and really enjoying it, and then they make that switch where they're all of a sudden talking about their favorite toothbrush, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, now everything's going to be an ad. And I don't ever want our social channels to feel that way. I think if I'm going to talk about a brand on our page, then it's going to be somebody that I've got personal experience with, that we've used their product and we love their product, and we would talk about it whether we were, being asked to promote it or not. So brands like Pella have been brands that we've used for years and really stand behind, they stand behind their own product and their legacy brands, and their company culture and everything is impressive to us. So those are the kind of people I want to kind of lift up. And I think that has a much more authentic ring to it for our audience. They want to know about, who do we love and why, because we've been in this business long enough that we've got some favorites for sure. And so I do try to be really careful about that, and I know you do too.
Well, I know the authenticity is super key, right, to all of our businesses and bringing value to the client, right? And even outside of just the mention, I mean, I look, Kohler and Builder Trend, Pella, some of these brands I work with where Sub-Zero Wolf, if I need something like, it's direct, right? That there's a direct connection, especially in the supply chain. I mean, that's been valuable too, just that communication with those partnerships in Cambria too. So let me ask you this, because I want to pivot to one thing, because when you were there, you said something that blew my mind that I've thought about every week since then. And you've said, none of our clients have our cell phone number. And so for anyone listening, this is the most amazing thing I've ever heard. And I have no idea how that's possible to this day. So how have you been able to achieve that?
Well, we have a great team, Brad, and I feel like we make it a point right from the start to make sure the clients are aware that we chose the people that are working with us for a specific reason, and they have superpowers that nobody else in the office has. And so there's a reason why we are going to have most of the communication between the clients and with our team happening, for instance, on co-construct, because we want to document all of those questions and answers and information that's given in a place where everybody can refer to that later, so that none of those details get lost. And, we also like for our clients to know that we have a life outside of building their dream home, and we have 5 kids, and there's got to be a point in time where we say the work day is done and we go home and we're with our kids. And and I feel the same way for our team members. I mean, they need to have that opportunity as well. We're not, what's the saying? We're not living to work, we're working to live. And so, I mean, we love what we do, but we also know that there's like downtime that needs to happen so that we can be doing our best work for them. And I think that's kind of an expectation we set early with our clients.
And it's not that we're avoiding them, and I think maybe your next question is, what in case of an emergency, what's our process? And again, our online tool, again, not to totally promote co-construct, but again, that's 24 hours, 7 days a week. That thing's there, and we do have process in place. If there is an emergency, there's keywords that we'll pick up on, like the roof is leaking or things like that. Heaven forbid, we haven't seen that really much, but we have processes in place where we can act pretty quickly. And again, our vendors are all attached to that. So any comment in co-construct is broadcast to a huge range of people, whereas, my cell phone, which, who knows, you can Google it. I'm sure anybody could find it, but it's not going to go as far as it would in our normal chain of communication. So, but you, Brad, I don't know. Like, you haven't given me your cell phone. What's up with that? Like,
Well, I have it.
oh, okay.
Just Emily. I just communicate through Emily, Dan.
Inner circle.
So
Okay. Well, there you go.
you'll get in that specialized group here shortly. Don't worry. No.
And again, if our clients at the end of the job, they get our cell phone number, that means they've
Yeah.
that means that we'll go golfing and go out to dinner.
Yeah, I will say from our side, because I'm doing a lot of our business development, and we don't do, at least right now, we're not doing any specs, else I'll build a suit. And, so a lot of that communication and being on the road, or traveling or other commitments, right, at times there are, it's important to give out my cell phone. But every company has their own organization. But I will say, really the point of this, Dan and Emily, that I think needs to be made is that you have the systems and organization, you're setting expectations. And so by having the back end support, the clients don't feel out of touch. They don't feel neglected. They don't feel like you're not there. And it's still respectful. And I look at it, we've had clients that, right, wrong, and different. Think some of my clients are working maybe in the medical field, so that work all day. They don't have their phone on them. So for them, they come home at 9 o'clock, and that's when they're catching up, right? Hey, following up on emails, or, maybe it's a Saturday evening or Sunday night, or they're traveling, they're on business. And so what's difficult is my team maybe get that text late at night, and it can disrupt them. And it may not be malintended by the client, but it comes across that way because of the hours or whatever time. And so, for me, I've set the expectation with our team, and we have an amazing team too, that, hey, here's certain hours that I expect you guys to be available, right? And then after hours, it's your time. If you want to respond or there's something urgent you want, that's totally up to you. And then we let the clients know that too. Hey, our team's available Monday through Friday, this time to this time, nights and weekends. They do need that time to disengage. If there's an emergency, of course, here's our protocol. But I think that gets down to the core of it, is that we have to create a culture for our company and for our people that they're not tied to their phone. Maybe sometimes as business owners we are, but they can't be, because they need that health, right state of mind.
Yeah. Well, and if I've learned anything in the last year and a half, it's that very few things are an emergency. In the general scheme of things, in the broader perspective on what is an actual emergency, like very few things along the building process are worth getting upset about. If something gets installed wrong, we can fix that. So it's not like there needs to be this level of panic. I know there's a lot of dollars involved, but we try to be that very calm presence that has had a lot of experience and has seen a lot of things maybe go wrong the first time, but we're been able to make those right. And I think, we always joke that when the clients are getting really crazy, we bring Dan in because he's the Prozac. Like, there's just something about bringing Dan into the room that immediately, like, the level of intensity and anxiety just kind of simmers down. And so I think that's kind of the benefit of having a little bit of separation between you and your clients, is that, your team can really do what they're best at. And if something escalates and it needs to be something that Dan or I are involved in, then we can step in with that kind of level of calmness and kind of bring everything back into perspective.
I bet your operation, Brad, is when you walk up on the job site and the client sees you, it's like, you're the guy. I'm going to talk to you. And then probably, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like, and I tell my team this, when they start talking to me, slowly they become redundant almost, and then they start addressing me, and I think, man, I don't know the answer. Let me talk to the superpower over here, and my team would know more than I do, and I don't like to overshadow my team, but sometimes we get this kind of, I don't know, misty-eyed perception with some of our clients that, oh my gosh, they're on the job, so I'm going to just talk to them, and I don't love that. So I'm just there for warm and fuzzies. I give hugs, I give flowers and cookies, and and I get to do some of that fun PR stuff.
Well, and it
but-
really helps if they are asking you those questions, and especially if your employee is there, to turn to the employee and say, so and so, why
What
don't
do
you
you
tell the client, what you think about the situation, and reinforce that you hired this person because they're an expert at what they do, and so let's give them the opportunity to be that expert and not try to step in and save the day all the time.
Well, I think that goes back to expectations too. I mean, Dan, you mentioned that from the beginning, there's no doubt that to be a successful operation, I mean, Emily and Dan, you can't be doing every single task all the time, right? Like there is certain aspects where you're super talented, especially you, Emily, with the design, and you're going to drive that. And then, there's a handoff to the field and so forth. And so setting that expectation where, hey, as a company, the client, you get Clark & Co. Homes. I mean, you get the whole brand, everyone involved. And so, yes, I'm not your main point of contact all the time. Maybe for a portion of the project or pre-construction process I will be, or maybe at this aspect of the sales process. But at some point, I do have my team in the field, and that's why we are who we are. And so the more clear we can set that and then train our team, the more successful they'll be, and we can deliver that end product for the client.
Absolutely. Yep. No, that's just it. I feel like it makes our job easier when we can put our trust into a team that's competent and passionate. And when we visited your operation, we felt that with the same as your team. You've surrounded yourself with amazing people, and that's a blessing, and we're grateful that we have that. But it just makes us doing what we do best that much better, that we can entrust that stuff to them and continue and do what we do, and keep moving forward.
So how do you do, going back to that aspect of it? Most people are struggling with hiring. I know in our Builder 21 the thing was, how do you hire good people, right? And know that they're gonna have you found a secret to success on what you're looking for when you hire someone into the company?
Secrets of success, no. But I will tell you, we've just been fortunate, and I think it goes back to that comment where we said we're not just building a house to put a family in here and call it. We're looking beyond that and the residual effects that creates. So these projects have created a brand. They've created an opportunity to build for a family. They've created an opportunity to build for people all over the country. In addition to that, to answer your question, they've created a brand where people have reached out to us, and it resonates, where they are convinced that this is the company that they would like to work for. I don't know how this works, but we've never had to put a wanted, need helps, whatever you call it. I don't even know what you call that. But people have just come to us, and we just keep their resumes, and when opportunity arises, we go back to the files, and we get the nicest emails like, I don't know that you're hiring, but I just followed you or whatever, and I just admire what Emily does. Nobody ever mentions me. But, they just want to be part of whatever this glamorous image that we produced on social media and our products. And really, Google reviews, these clients are just enjoying the process. So, again, a tribute to Emily and what she's produced here. But the hiring that we've done have just been people that have reached out to us for the most part, and or people even that we've just worked with and said, we've really enjoyed working. I know you're not working there anymore. Give it some thought. But it's just been a fortunate turn of events where we've been able to curate a great team and it comes down to the passion and the assimilation with our ideals of the branding and what we're putting together. And creating a home for somebody is such an intimate experience, and I feel like we're able to show the emotion that goes into this project and through our portfolio, but also some of the reviews or the client experience that they've had. I'm not that contractor that's hard-nosed, that's yelling on the job site. I've seen those contractors, and I vowed never to be that contractor. If my faith teaches me anything, it's humility, it's respect, it's love, it's understanding, and especially in the world today, there's so many reasons to be hateful and super critical, and that's one thing that I feel like we do really well as a team, and we try to show that culture in our team, that people make mistakes, and we can get past this together, but we're not going to call each other the worst names in the book or whatever. So it's this whole culture that we've tried to create, and I think it helps us when we need to find talent and bring them in. So we've just been pretty fortunate. We do run a thin, lean machine.
Yeah.
We don't have a huge staff, but the ones that we do have, we expect great things, but they also are just a perfect fit for us. We just lost one to Middle Earth, we like to call her. She just retired and went to who knows where, but cashed out on her house in Boise, and props to her, but we sure miss and love her. But we've just been pretty fortunate, I think.
Yeah, our team members really become our family. I mean, like Dan said, we do run a pretty lean operation. We're pretty slow to hire. And I would say we're not really hiring specifically for a certain skill set, but more of a type of person that is flexible and creative. And I think most of the people that are working for us now have done a lot of different things within our company. We've kind of tried them out in different areas until we really recognized what their superpower was and what they really enjoyed doing and would be passionate about, and really tried to capitalize on those things. And I think that probably becomes from the fact that neither Dan and I came into this business from an education based in construction or design. I'm a music major. Dan was a communications and marketing major. Excuse me. We both kind of fell into the construction and real estate industry. I mean, I've always been passionate about design, but I never really considered that as a career opportunity for myself until Dan was already building. And then I sort of naturally moved into it and just really loved it. So I think we recognize that just because a person started out in one field doesn't mean they didn't learn skills in that arena that would really transfer over to what we're doing and be a real asset to our company.
I love that. I mean,
I think
what's that, Dan?
You spoke with Mickey a couple episodes ago, and she brought up a great point where she kind of focuses on the talent and what they are able to do. Obviously, you want them to do that as efficiently as possible, but she's not segmenting them really. She's just trying to hone in on their superpowers, we like to call. I thought that basically we're trying to do that same thing that she expressed in that episode.
I mean, it's such sound advice for anyone listening. I mean, you just think of that culture side that you've both created, and as you mentioned, right? If they're the right personality, you'll bring them up and focus on those superpowers and train them in that system. And kind of the unintended benefits of social media when people are looking at hiring. I mean, if you have a great social media presence, then you could dictate your culture and your product and your systems and everything you do so well. I mean, that's going to attract the talent, right? It's going to attract the people to say, we want to be Dan and Emily. And that's really the whole message you just shared. And so, I mean, you've both been so generous with your time. You have an amazing business. I've been so impressed. I mean, just over the years, getting to know you both, and relied on you for a lot of sound advice, including the cell phone, how I'm going to figure that out. But before we close, I mean, so what's upcoming and exciting for Clark & Co.?
We are right now designing our own office building / venue. So we've kind of come up with a new concept for sort of a combination, being able to have a space that feels like you're walking into one of our homes, but is big enough that we could host events there, that people could rent out the venue for that specific purpose. I think what we were realizing, a lot of the times we would have these model homes and we would office out of our model homes a lot, and people just love to be there and they just love to linger longer there. And we really wanted to be able to create a place that can stay in a more permanent position and be able to host activities and kind of act as a community center. So maybe we'll have weddings there, and then maybe, who knows, 2 or 3 years later, maybe they come to us and ask them to build their first home as a couple. I mean, we would love that. We'd love to be a part of their lives. And I think that those two kind of just naturally go hand in hand. We're always trying to create in our homes that feeling of being welcomed and that gracious hospitality. And so I think that being able to have a little bit bigger space to enjoy with people will be great. I think everybody is dying to go out to party and be with each other again. And so I think we are kind of uniquely poised to be able to offer that. So we are deep into that design right now.
The other part of that is with that, we're trying to more breach the virtual reality side of home building and design. So Emily just got back from New York with a series of information on virtual model homes where people can virtually walk through a home that's just been rendered. And so we're going down that path where we can take what we've done as far as digital designs and create a service where people can digitally design their home and render it down to, again, because we're a design build, we see that there's both ends of the design and actually putting it forth. And so in our world of construction, we have in Co-Construct what's called templates. So we've been starting offering those templates, so any other Co-Construct or Buildertrend user can download our templates, and it's just turnkey specifications, design work, renderings. So we're really excited about that. But again, it's kind of this whole thing that for years it's the contractor with the dog in the back of his truck. We have just been reinventing this wheel over and over, and now people are just jumping online on their phones and seeing all the imagery that they want and don't know how to get there. And it's come a long way for sure, but these pieces of this machine, we're trying to put all those pieces together, one-stop shopping. So they're able to just download that template through their contractor, and they're off to the races. So we've got some exciting stuff. Obviously, we've got some new concept models. We've got 3 that are going to be photographed here soon, and we're excited about showing a little bit more of a fresher take on some of the things that we've done in the past. So anyway, it's been fun. But I will tell you, Brad, you know this. We may sound like it's all glamorous, but it's not. There's times where we're just like, oh my gosh, get me out of here. I'll go be a checker at the local Albertsons, whatever. So, but I'm always, if anybody needs, like you're saying, mentorship, I feel like one of the biggest things that we can do is share our experience. And that's one of the things that I think we have tried to do is volunteer our time or just the experience. If people are trying to get into the business or have questions, that mentorship is super valuable. Obviously, down to the education part, we're always pushing for people choosing a career path. College, traditional college is great, but these vocational skills, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, I mean, they're so needed right now, and they pay well. We're always advocates of helping people find their educational course through maybe untraditional ways. So reach out. We're always here. Again, we just love to share some of the experiences we've had, the good, bad, and the ugly. But we appreciate you having us on the show. You're awesome, and we are super impressed with you. And props to you.
Well, thanks, Dan and Emily. And you left that, you dangled that carrot there. So where can the listeners find you now?
You can connect with us on our Instagram channel at Clark & Co. Homes. All spelled out. Also Facebook and Pinterest at that same handle, on our website at clarkandcohomes.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, thank you both, Dan and Emily. I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Thanks for having us, Brad.